Yes. It is indeed a pleasant morning. My solemn greetings to honorable jury members present here and all my dear spectators who are witnessing me. I hold account of this ID number 108914, which has brought me to this dais where I am standing in front of you. In today's world, I'd like to say that many of us often tend to forget ourselves in the verge of competence, in the verge of fight. We often want to create a facade about everything happening in our life. So today, I recall, I'd like to take an example from the history. We often talk about the father of our nation, Gandhiji. We all very well know that his disciplinary course that he had taken was law. He studied law. But in the course of history till date, do we address him as an advocate, Gandhiji, or do we call him Mahatma Gandhi? That is where he earned the name Mahatma, because he didn't rely on his subjects, he didn't rely on his academic, but he relied on his foundational value. He first studied himself in order to study the society for which he wanted to fight the freedom for. Now I'd like to speak that in the heavy competence of this world, many of the youth today, especially the Gen Alpha, they often live in a delusional life. They often tend to forget ourselves. So the topic that I've chosen today, of which I'm going to speak about, is delving deep into the inner me. So how can one analyze myself? How can I analyze myself as an individual? So there are basically 4 segments that I have specified. So first is self-understanding. Second is self-introspection. Third is self-realization. And fourth is self-actualization. So first, without further ado, speaking about self-understanding, how far can we understand about my capacities, my possibilities, my abilities, in which situation I am placed, I can show my dexterity. How can all of us find answers for that? In today's world, I like to club in the employees of today and the Gen Alpha. Many of them try to nullify themselves every day, and they want to compete themselves every day. So that leads to unterminated cravings, and that unterminated cravings prevents what is called contentment. We don't have self-contentment today of the life that we're blessed with. Only if we love today what I am, only when I embrace myself today of what I am, I can welcome the one who I will become in the future. So second, we often contradict ourselves, we nullify ourselves. No, this is not enough, I want more. People today are too ambitious, want too many, too fast. That often leads to failure. Now in such a case, self-compliment is more important than self-contradiction. Now speaking about self-understanding, I'm not going to a contrary part of narcissism, but I'm demarcating of unleashing one's true potential. That matters the most. Now, understanding oneself is not renouncing, but understanding myself is unleashing my own true potential of what aggregate output I can give to this agglomerated life. So now when I've finished understanding about myself, moving on with the second part, self-introspection, I'd like to think about a quote which was given by Kiran Bedi: aim for whatever you want, but do it in the right way. When we ask a question to ourselves today, do I fall in the path of righteousness? Can we give a willing answer for that? So, to sincerity, how can all of us find answers for that? In today's world, I like to club in the employees of today and the Gen Alpha. Many of them try to nullify themselves every day, and they want to compete themselves every day. So that leads to unterminated cravings, and that unterminated cravings prevents what is called contentment. We don't have self-contentment today of the life that we're blessed with. Only if we love today what I am, only when I embrace myself today of what I am, I can welcome the one who I will become in the future. So second, we often contradict ourselves, we nullify ourselves. No, this is not enough, I want more. people today are too ambitious, want too many, too fast. That often leads to failure. Now, in such a case, self-complement is more important than self-contradiction. Now, speaking about self-understanding, I'm not going to a contrary part of narcissism, but I'm demarcating of unleashing one's true potential. That matters the most. Now, understanding oneself is not renouncing, but understanding myself is unleashing my own true potential of what aggregate output I can give to this agglomerated life. So now when I've finished understanding about myself, moving on with the second part, self-introspection, I'd like to think about a quote which was given by Kiran Bedi: aim for whatever you want, but do it in the right way. When we ask a question to ourselves today, do I fall in the path of righteousness? Can we give a willing answer for that? So to suffice you with that, I'd like to say I'd like to tell about 5 most deadly sins, which are stated by Mahatma Gandhi. Amongst the 7, first, wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, knowledge without character. 4th is commerce without morality. And 5th comes science without humanity. So when I take myself to a place of redemption and I'm able to answer that no, I haven't done any of these sins, and I live my life at that stand of my policies, that shows one's true potential. How far are we ready to analyze? How far are we ready to get the sense of discernment in this life where we want to reach a goal that we wished for? Now, if I have answer for that, then I'm done with my introspection. 3rd, speaking about self-realization. Now, there's nothing much simpler than answering for the 5 WH questions which arise in realizing oneself. First, what? What am I? What is my purpose in life? What do I see myself in? What can I put myself into? What is me? What am I? That is the question what one must know to create his identity. And this is where one can create his own value system. One can create his own identity, a structured identity. Second is the place in which I want to put stress on why. Because why is the motivational driving force which keeps you going. The bigger the why, the greater the cost of why, that takes me to the 3rd thing, which is easier, of how I'm going to get done with it. The greater the why, the greater the motivation, the easier the implementation that you have in your how. Then, 4th, when am I going to start? My father in the audience always says, always gives me an advice, have an indexed time frame in whatever you do. Have an indexed time. So have an indexing of when am I going to achieve this? When am I going to start? When am I going to achieve it? Because without time, self-realization is incomplete. If you have answer for that, then the last is where. Where do I see myself now? Where do I see myself now? And where I want to be, that matters the most. Where do you see yourselves? If all these 5 satisfied answers you have for the questions, then at that time you have realized yourself. Now, with realization, with the ammunition of my character, of my own character, this is when I actualize. You actualize, you visualize, and you enact. In such a case, speaking about the 4th segment, self-actualization. This is the bridge between where you are now and where you want to be. This gives you a skeletal framework of where you see yourself after a period of time. Let's say a map. Only a goalkeeper, the goalkeeper must see the goalpost in order to score a goal. And as far said by the quote by the Cheshire Cat to Alice in the novel Alice in the Wonderland, if you don't know where you're going, all the roads will take you there. So, but being corporate professionals of today, we must know where is our destination. And the road that takes us to the destination, that too matters the most. Because we must see the objectives of our lives, and also we have to be ready to tackle the obstacles that come in between. This is the time, this is called productivity. When you actualize yourself, when you bring in self-actualization, that is when you can face anything that comes in life. So now I've spoken about all these four segments. Let's speak about statistics. I'd like to take my historical references, which happened 10 years ago in the year 1923. I'm glad that I'm able to decipher this historical event now. 8 topmost businessmen whose combined wealth exceeded even the combined wealth of the US government. 2 of the prominent ones I'd like to mention. The largest steel company's owner, who is Charles Schwab, the company's name is Charles Schwab, lived in a borrowed land in the last 5 years before he died bankrupt. Second, the renowned person entitled as the bear in the stock market, in the Wall Street, he died, he committed suicide, stating, "I am a failure and I'm unworthy of your love." That was in the suicidal note dedicated for his beloved wife, Nina. So we can clearly know that these people knew how to make a living, but they didn't know how to make life. At last, I'd like to implore you all with one excerpt from Mahabharata, which was illustrated by an eminent author, Sudha Narayana Murthy. Why is Lord Krishna always appreciated throughout the entire Mahabharata? Why? Not because he was the husband, he was the spouse of Rukmini, not because he was the son of Devaki and Vasudeva, not because he was raised by Yashoda, not because he fathered Aniruddha, but the line go by, Krishna Swayam Krishna. No matter whatever trepidated moment he faced, no matter what he faced, he stood by his value system. And how far have we taken time to create our value system, our identity? Thank you so much for the opportunity given.